All right, good morning. We are going to carry on. This is going to be our last objectives for this chapter 4 and 5 combo. So we are going to look at the classes of natural resources, and then we're going to look at the methods that are used to conserve and restore biodiversity. So natural resources, I'm hoping this is something that's not a new concept, is usually something you start getting in like the 4th or 5th grade. So as the human population continues to grow, we also see a growth in the demand for natural resources. So the consumption rate of resources, it's not the same for the entire world. And that's what this diagram is showing you. The countries that are swollen up and really big are the ones that have higher consumption rates. It's always going to be higher for people who live in developed countries. And less so for underdeveloped countries. So you can see how big the United States is. We have a really, really high demand for resources, as well as China, India, Japan, and a few of the European countries, whereas areas that are less developed, like many of the countries in Africa, a lot of parts of South America, are very, very skinny because they don't have as high of a consumption rate. So, renewable, non renewable resources, again, this is something that I kind of hope you already know. Renewable resources are those that are replaced by natural processes. So anything that deals with solar power, agricultural products, animals, clean water, clean air, anything that's right here would be considered a renewable resource. Non renewable, they are found in limited amounts and they take a very, very long time to replace. So, this is anything that deals with fossil fuels, mineral deposits, metal deposits, precious stones, anything like that would be considered a non renewable resource. Now, this class, sustainable use or sustainable resources, this is more of a kind of a practice than an actual type of resource, but it's basically using a resource at a rate in which they can be replaced or recycled while we're still preserving the environment. So, for example, in this picture, a logging company may cut down 25 trees, but they're going to go back and plant 30 to replace those ones that they took. So they're only taking a small amount and then taking steps to replace it. So there's a very famous quote by C.S. Lewis, which is the guy that wrote Alice in Wonderland. The task of modern education is not to cut down the jungles, but to irrigate the deserts. And I thought that was just, it's interesting to think about, and it does kind of apply to this particular topic. All right, in the field of conserving and restoring biodiversity, there's lots of different countries involved in this, and it's a worldwide effort to slow the loss of biodiversity. Conservation biologists recognize that there's an importance of establishing those protected areas where biodiversity is allowed to flourish. The U.S. was the first to establish the national park system in 1872. Yellowstone was the first one, and that's picture of Old Faithful right here. On the worldwide standard, roughly 7% of the world's land is set aside for some type of reserve. Oh, whoops, sorry, wrong way. All right, areas with the highest biodiversity, and I do want you to list a few of these. So we're looking at the areas that are usually right here. So our tropical type areas are going to be the most concentrated. So we have South America, we have Latin America, the Congo region of Africa. This is Madagascar, and then China and India are the ones that I want you to have down. So one more time: South America, Latin America, the Congo region, Madagascar, and China and India. Okay. So there are certain areas of the world that are more, I guess you could say, more special than others in terms of what kind of animals they have. So conservation biologists have identified locations around the world that are characterized by very high levels of what we call endemic species. So species that are only found in that specific geographic area. And one of the big examples is the giant panda, because they feed exclusively on one type of bamboo that only grows on a particular mountain range in China. They cannot be found anywhere else in the world. They are just there. And we can say that for a lot of different species. But the panda is kind of the poster child for this particular term. Some ways for conservation to actually get in and help: bioremediation, the use of living organisms to detoxify a polluted area. Years ago, when we had the huge Gulf Shore oil spill, bacteria was actually used to break down that oil and clean up the environment. Species of plants can also be used to remove toxic substances from soils, and that's kind of what this is showing you here. So the bacteria is completely safe for other animals that are in the area. It's just solely there to break down that oil and try to clean up the environment. All right, biological augmentation. You don't need to write this part down here, but adding predators to a degraded ecosystem. These little yellow bugs here are called aphids, and they can just decimate crops. So what's usually done is that you introduce ladybugs who enjoy eating the little aphids, and they don't really eat the plants. So this is one that's been done. There's some situations where this has gone terribly wrong, but if it's done correctly, it can actually do some really good things. Oh crap, I did the wrong. There we go. The right way. All right, on the legal standpoint for protecting biodiversity and just protecting species in general, in the 70s, there was a huge amount of attention that was focused on the destruction of the environment in hopes of maintaining biodiversity. There were several laws that were enacted. In the United States, the Endangered Species Act was designed to legally protect the species that were being extinct or threatened. That is actually something that has gone worldwide with the international treaty, which we call the CITES Treaty, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So this was signed in 1975, so not too long after the Endangered Species Act went into effect, but it outlaws the trade of endangered species and animal parts. So with that video that you guys watched yesterday, this is supposed to protect from that sort of stuff happening, but again, it's really hard to keep an eye on everybody. But some species or some countries, certain species are highly illegal, and you can get prosecuted and sent to prison. You can get fined huge amounts of money depending on what the animal is. But we're gonna watch a video in class about endangered species. So hopefully I'll be able to put that up on the classroom as well. All right, this is it. You will have an assignment today, so have a good rest of the day, you guys.